Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, today we're going to take care of the filler panel. We're going to get that blocked out, see where we stand there, inside of the sail panels and around the rear glass area. It does need some work. There's some pitting, some other stuff going on. So I want to kind of get this done from the wheel wells back, and so we can move forward, get the doors on and start blocking those out and kind of get the main body, ready for another coat of epoxy. But before we do that, I want to address last week's video. It created quite a bit of controversy in the comments, and probably still is right now as I'm talking. People hate metal to metal, or they hate the idea of using filler on an edge like this. Now, ideally, having steel there would be perfect. Letting this all the way in, all the way around would have been ideal. That's over 10 feet of letting for me to do, and I'm just not going to do that. Now, some guys suggested, well, you should have welded on the edge of the trunk panel or added a welding rod on there and filled it in. Well, I checked the trunk panel. It's perfect. I mean, it doesn't have waves in it. It's not wonky. That's fine. The problem is this car's a little, not square back here, so the panel was off just a tiny bit. And in 1967, that was perfectly fine. And for a lot of people, that was perfectly fine. But I want it nicer than that. So I chose to use metal to metal, and some people hate that stuff. I mean, they hate it with a passion. And I'll tell you guys, I appreciate all the comments. 99.99% of them are always respectful. Just say, hey man, I had a lot of trouble with that. I hate that stuff. I'll never use it. I've been doing this 100 years. Never use that stuff. I appreciate all that. I appreciate the experience you guys tell me about. But in this case, I've had really good luck with metal to metal in the past. I've been doing this for a while, and I've never had a failure. So I don't know if I'm just lucky or what, but I'm going to keep an eye on this. I listened to everything you guys told me. It's going to be a while before Ruby goes into paint, and I'm going to keep an eye on it. I might even set up a test and stress test it a little bit doing that. Now, putting metal to metal over epoxy for structural reasons is not recommended. You're basically putting polyester on top of epoxy. Epoxy can go over polyester, vice versa, but that's in boat building when it's structural. For cosmetic stuff, it shouldn't be a problem. But if it fails, I will tell you guys. I won't hide it. Just like I show everything else, I'll show you. So if you think this is a wonder fix for everything, I'm taking a chance here using that over epoxy. That's the only chance I think I'm taking. I'm not worried about it failing. I'm worried about the adhesion onto the epoxy. I wiped my putty knife off on the trash can here. I cannot get the piece off that's stuck on there, and that's a plastic trash can with old gobs of paint and grease on it. So it's adhering to that really well. So I really appreciate all your advice, splitting it down here and prying that over. I've done that in the past, but like I said, that's 10 feet of splitting, grinding, welding, and you risk the chance of these panels popping up or being distorted either from cutting them or welding them and they get warpage. So everybody makes a choice when they're building their car. How far do I want to go? The perfect way would have been to cut the doublers loose inside the trunk, cut the taillight panel loose, and pull this whole thing square, clamp it, spot weld it all back together, and start from scratch, possibly cutting the whole taillight panel out and putting a new one in. I'm not going to do that either. So we all make choices. So I'm hoping that I made the right choice here, but I will show you guys if it fails. I promise you that. 6 days from now or 6 years from now, I'll show you. So let's get to work on this thing and try to finish Ruby's back half off here. All right, guys, before we get to work, let's do a quick review of what I did off camera. Of course, you guys saw me do this gap right here. I went ahead and did this gap in metal to metal, and that one over there, same stuff. There is leading from here to about here. I leaded both of these in because if you guys recall, this filler panel really was manufactured too short. So when it came here, then it kind of jogged in and then went. So I used a lot of lead right through here to build this up. Same thing on the other side. I had to file some of it down because the gap was a little tight, but it's looking pretty good. And then I went ahead and did the taillight panel off camera. I blocked it out, did some filling. We had welded in multiple holes where it kind of rusted through here and there. That seems like over a year ago now, but it's looking pretty good. It does need more epoxy. These lips right here were kind of pitted on a couple of them. I could feel that one. Still has a few pits, so we need to get a good coat, a couple of coats of epoxy, block those out again, and totally remove those pits. We'll just let the epoxy fill it. And then this gap right here, it's looking really good. It didn't really take much filler on this side, just a little bit right there. It was basically 0 through here and a little bit back through here. And then the tail or the trunk lid to filler panel fits perfectly. We pried that up and it's really looking good. So I'm really happy with that connection right there. And all the way around, it's looking really good, height-wise, elevation-wise, except right here. This area is a little low. Now I did weld a piece in here. This was rusted out. There's some sort of glued on plate and it held water, caused a big rust hole. So this piece right here is new, me welded it in. And I thought I got it right. I got it good out here, but I think I was just a little low right here, and not much, guys. It's just a tiny, tiny bit. So we're gonna go ahead and fill this. I know guys are gonna hate it, but that's my choice, and I think that's a good solution, and I'm not too worried about it. I mean, what's gonna be banging into it right here anyway? So we're gonna kind of mask this off and scuff all this up and get it prepped, and then use some filler through here and just blend it back out each direction. And it's only from, you know, here to there, and it's just a tiny bit. So heck, two or three more coats of epoxy would probably let me block that out, but we'll get some filler on that first, get this straightened out, then we can get the trunk lid out of the way and get to work up in here. All right, I got it scuffed up. I got some tape on here, blew it off, ran the tack rag over it. So let's go ahead and get some filler on it. All right, let's get the tape off where the stuff sits up all the way. Not much less to clean up. It's going to take some sanding in here to get this shape right. I don't want to carve on it too much. We're just going to use sandpaper. Starting off before it gets too hard, just getting this radius right here. So if you ever wonder how to get these inside radiuses like this sanded, if you're shaping body filler or even blocking out a inside corner, I just took a piece of sheet metal. I think that's 19 gauge. I bent it around the shape here of the trunk lid, and then I fine-tuned it to match that right there. I got some 60 grit on here, peel and stick, stuck it on there, and you got yourself a nice little radius sanding tool. So it works pretty good. Not perfect, but it's better than using your thumb trying to go around there and hold a perfect shape. And it's strong enough to hold its shape, as long as you don't push on it too hard, which you shouldn't be anyways, just trying to slowly bring this around to where you want it. So it's actually starting to look pretty good right there. I'm gonna keep sanding on this. I'll bring you back, we'll start on the top. All right, we got that looking pretty good. We'll fine tune it later, but it's looking pretty uniform all the way around the corner there. So I've got some 60 grit here on the short block, and I've got some 100 grit on my little round Dura block. So let's back up, see if we can smooth this out, and hopefully we're not too low. We may have to put another coat, but we'll see. Starting to come together pretty nicely. Switch over to something a little finer here. All right, let's lower the trunk down and see how we did. All right, let's see how it looks. Pretty good up till there. It's a little low starting right there. to there. So just this little tiny spot right here. It's got a little unsanded body filler right there, so I think we'll put another coat right through here, just like that, feather it back. So let me take care of that and I'll bring you right back. All right, we got that second coat on there. You can see it right here. Got it all sanded up really nice. It's feeling really good, looking really good. And we got the elevation spot on. So we're looking really nice. So I went ahead and re-rounded that edge to match the factory shape. So I'm pretty happy to get that knocked out. Yes, I know people are gonna say you're gonna chip that off, but I'm not worried about it. So that's all that matters. So I went ahead and blocked the top of the quarter panels. They came out really nice. This one more than the other side. A couple of shiners sticking through, but this one actually came out nice. The other side's got a couple little low spots in it, but nothing serious. So another coat of epoxy will probably take those out. In the meantime, I went ahead and got the rear moldings on, because before I take the deck lid off, I don't want to be doing this on and off a bunch of times, and it's adjusted right where I want it. I went and got the moldings on, and they're looking really good. So this one's screwed on. Both of these left and rights are just taped up there, so they're not like pulled in tight. And this one's got a little twist to it. It took a shot right there, you can see it, and it's not quite shaped quite right, so I'm gonna have to tweak on it a little bit. But we are looking pretty good right here. We're just off a little bit, and this one could come out a little bit, and possibly at the bottom it could go in. So what I can do is take this molding off, lay a large block of wood right where it breaks over right there, and just give it a little bump, a little tap, try to bring that in so these line up a little better. But that's something I'm going to work on off camera, but it's important to get this stuff right now and make sure everything's lining up and do what you want. Now this side, on the other hand, is looking really nice. The molding's not twisted, it's sitting exactly where it belongs, and look at how they come together right there. Everything's lining up just perfect. Really happy how nice that looks. So I'll take care of that other stuff off camera. Then I think we're just about ready to get the deck lid out of the way, and then we can move up and get to work on that filler panel. So let me bust some of this out and I'll bring you back. All right, we got that molding and that area all worked out. It's looking really good. Look how it lines up across there. Everything's looking really nice. I even got that little dent out right there. You can still see a little ripple in it. Got a little bit more work. That's about 45 minutes work. It was really hard down inside that groove, but I think I can get it if I keep picking away at it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get the deck lid off, and then we're gonna go up there and see what's going on with that filler panel and the window area. All right, before we block out the filler panel, I wanna go ahead and get some work done around where the glass goes in on the sail panels. So you can see I've got the molding in here. I've got some blocks in here to just kind of mimic the thickness of the urethane sealant and the glass. So I kind of have an idea. So it's looking pretty good around in here. But up in here you can see we've got some work that needs to be done. There's a little pucker. I did some leading right there. Obviously you guys remember I put the quarter panel on with the sail panel. So that's some of my unevenness when I leaded that in. This side over here is looking really good. So I'm pretty happy about that. We're gonna block the inside of these sail panels as well and kind of see where we're at. So let's go ahead and get to work over here. We're gonna get some filler. I'll get that scuffed up. We'll get some filler on that, get that cleaned up, and then we can get to blocking this filler panel and see how it's gonna look. All right, we got it scuffed up real good, blown off and tacked off. We only really need to worry about, just about a 1/2 inch down since the molding covers everything. I'm just gonna use a small putty knife to get this squished down on here really good. And then we'll see if we can't smooth it out. All right, that looks pretty good right there. We're gonna leave it alone. We're gonna let it set up all the way. I'm not gonna try to trim anything. It's pretty cold in the shop, so it's gonna take a bit for this to set up. I'm gonna go clean the board up, get a paper towel over here and wipe up some of these drips, and then we'll get sanding on that. All right, set up pretty nice. We're gonna go ahead and take some, I think this is 60 grit, and kind of knock the top off right on here. Some 80 grit. All right, we're gonna go ahead and use that piece of sheet metal with some 60 grit on it again. This comes in really handy. You just bend it to the shape I went to the other side, bend it to shape, and now I can just run it right through here. It's already cleaning up pretty good, pretty fast. Looks good. It's a little low down there, but the molding comes way up here, so I'm not too worried about it. Feels pretty good. We've got a really sharp edge right here. Obviously, we need to round that over to match the factory. So let me grab something round to try to get this, and we'll get some fine sandpaper and get that sweetened up real nice. All right, I got my favorite little wood block I've been using for years. It's got a little bit of shape on every side. It's got this nice radius right here. So we're just going to use this. I think I've got some 100 right here. I'm just going to slowly break that edge over. And we'll switch over to some 220. This doesn't take long, you got to be careful. Once this is an epoxy again, you can see the edges a lot clearer. But right now we need to get it pretty darn close. Got some 220 here, just use my thumb. Take some of those sand scratches out. Sweeten up that curve. That feels pretty good. All right, we're looking pretty good. I've got a little cleanup down here. I should have wiped that with a paper towel when it was still soft, but that's on me. All right, I'm going to do a little fine sanding on this to get some of these sand scratches out, and we'll take a close-up look at it, and then put the molding back up here and see how we did. Okay, we got that corner fitting pretty good, but now we got another problem. We got a low spot right here. This molding is straight, but this inside of the sail panel, I can feel the hoop-de-doo right there. It's about 1/8 of an inch, maybe less. The molding won't push down inside there because that spot right there is not straight. So we're gonna go ahead and scuff this area from here to here, and we're gonna flatten that whole area out. All right. Got some tape here to keep me from getting down around the molding clips. I don't want to have to sand down there if I don't have to. You're not going to see it anyways. Go a little bit higher up here because I want a nice smooth transition. All right, let's see if that's enough. Got a stir stick here. I checked, it's nice and straight. We're just going to come across here, use it like a squeegee or a spreader. And we're too low right there. Doesn't want to build up there. That looks a little better. All right, now I know I've got it deep enough. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of skim over this whole thing and let the sandpaper do the flattening. All right, that looks pretty good. I think we got it. All right, let's let this set up a little bit. I'm going to peel this tape out of the way while it's still wet, and then we'll come back and get some sanding done. All right, it's looking pretty good, but I feel a little tiny low spot right where that bad spot was. So hopefully we got enough filler on there to take care of that. All right, let's try the molding here real quick. See how it looks. Looks a lot better, but definitely that spot right there that's showing up too low is still too low. So I don't think we're going to sand that out. Let me scuff this right here. And maybe a little bit down here. I want to make sure all this is feathered in real nice and looking really good. Even though it's not going to show, I want to make sure it's transitioned nice and smooth so it's easier to sand, easier to paint, easier to seal, everything. So yeah, let me go ahead and get all this dust cleaned up. We'll scuff all these areas and get another coat on here. All right, second coat set up. I got most of it sanded already. Kind of a tight fit in there. Can't slide the boards very far. Feeling really nice though. Look how big that got. Just a little hoop-de-doo, but this whole area was kind of depressed a little bit. But it's feeling really good right now. Let me get all this dust out of the way. We'll get the molding back in. We'll take a look at it, see if we solve that problem. Hopefully there's no more. All right, I think we finally got it. Look at the gap down through there. Looks really good. Everything's lining up really nicely. Wow, so much work for such a small little thing. All right, we finally get to the filler panel. Now, if you guys recall, I did bond that sound deadening underneath, so it has some sort of structure underneath there to the reinforcing panel underneath it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with some 60 grit. I've got some 80 on these two blocks here. I'm just going to use the 60 on the short one just to kind of knock some of the high spots down, and then we're going to move over to the 80. It's where we end up, how flat this thing ends up being. All right, not looking horrible. We can see low spot here, here, little one here. These will sand out. We got a low spot here, and we got a low spot in the exact same spot over here. They may need some filling. The way this panel is shaped, it's curved this way very slightly. And then with this rib right here, it kind of puts a little valley right here. So that kind of should be shaped into like a little swale on both of them. So I'm not too concerned about that. But it's not looking too bad. It's flat across here. I've already done some sanding there. But I'm going to keep at it. I'll bring you back in a minute. We'll switch over to the 80 grit and see where we can get. We haven't even got all the orange peel out of the epoxy yet. So I think we got plenty to give here. Let me bring you back in a minute. We'll see where we're at. All right, we aren't looking too bad. We get that little low spot. And I remember building this up with lead right here, so I think we're going to need to fill there. Got a little one here. The sand scratches are just starting to get into it. That one will sand out, but we've got a couple over here. Little dimples right there. This is not high. This panel was it's a little thin anyways. I think it's 20 gauge. And it had got some shipping damage, and I tried to get most of it out, but these two little dimples I must have missed or didn't get out all the way. We're going to need to get a little filler on there. No reason sanding anymore. And this one too, same thing. So I think we need to mix up some body filler, scuff those areas real good, and get some filling done on this thing, and then get back to sanding with that 60 grit.
All right, let's get this on here. Not exactly sure. Kind of lost where they're at, so do a little bit larger area. It'll all sand out.
All right, I think that's all of them. Got a couple of small ones here. I think those are going to sand out no problem. Actually, we got a little steel showing right there. So I will go ahead and fill this one as well. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Let it set up. We'll get it sanded. All right, we got some 40 grit. Knock the top off here. I'm not going to bore you guys with a bunch of sanding, so I'll bring you back when we about got all these flattened out. All right, I think we're about done here. It's looking pretty good. I don't have any more low spots. We've got a couple of shiners coming through, obviously near the low spots, but it's feeling pretty good. Need to get some more epoxy on it. Let me get this dust cleaned up and we'll take a close look at it. And I think we're just about ready to wrap this one up. We finished almost everything I wanted to get done. All right, took a lot of work just to get to the filler panel, but I think we've got it whipped here. I don't see any more low spots. Obviously it needs a couple of coats of epoxy on it so we can block it out some more, but I think we got all the low spots done and no high spots. These shiners are just coming through from sanding around the low spots. So they're pretty shallow, you know, so it's not a big deal. So we're looking pretty good. Now, I did want to go ahead and get some seam sealer going today, right in those, but that seam sealer requires that it has to have epoxy or a K2 primer underneath it. And I'm afraid I may have sanded through here or there and got down to bare steel. So we're going to go ahead and get some epoxy on it, block it out again, and then we'll scuff down inside that groove and get some seam sealer down inside there. So I think we are about done for the day. I know I am. All right, guys, that was a lot of work just to get to the filler panel, and I thought this video would go a lot faster than it did. We had a lot of work on the moldings on the back to get those to line up just right, and then of course around the rear glass molding, you guys saw it just, you know, there's a big gap there and that wouldn't have looked so good. So get your moldings out, test fit them, see what they need. Maybe they need to be tweaked a little bit. Maybe the car needs to be filled. Who knows? But do it early so you can kind of get that worked out way before you get even close to paint. So you kind of have all that groundwork done in advance. But I'm really glad to get all this done. These little tiny jobs really add up and eat up a whole day. And, you know, but it needs to be done. Now we're getting that much closer. I can hang the doors next week and start blocking those out. And then we can start either spotting in all this work we did or just put 2 coats over the whole thing. But that'll be for another day. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.